You think just 'cause you make money, you get to disrespect your family, she said. That was the last sentence my mother ever said to me face to face. 2 months ago, I walked out of my childhood home in Detroit with just a duffel bag and my laptop. No slamming doors, no shouting. Just done. And honestly, I should have done it sooner. But before I get too deep into where I am now, let me back up a little. You ever been the responsible one? The one who gets straight A's, pays bills early, shows up to help move furniture, handles emergencies, fixes internet issues, and knows everyone's birthday? Yeah, that was me. My name's Noah, 28 software engineer for a logistics company. Good job. Remote flexibility. Not flashy rich, but stable. Then there's Mason, my older brother by 4 years. He's got the energy of a half-charged Roomba, always moving, but never really going anywhere. He's been figuring things out since he was 25. He's 32 now, currently unemployed. Again. Our mom, Tracy, runs a small flower shop that's been dying since COVID. She won't admit it, but it's become more hobby than business. Dad Ted used to be a trucker, but a bad back and worse choices sidelined him. Now he just helps out at the shop, which mostly means doing Sudoku behind the counter. I moved out at 22, paid my way through college, got a job straight out of school, and never once asked them for anything. Not a dime. Mason, though Mason came back home 3 times, and every time they welcomed him with open arms and a grocery list of excuses. He's sensitive. He just needs time. The world's been rough on him, and I kept swallowing it, telling myself, well, that's just how it is. I can't control them. I'll just keep doing my part. That part turned into covering the electric bill, then groceries, then helping just this once with the mortgage. Spoiler, it was never just once. 3 years ago, Tracy called me crying. They were short on the house payment. Mason had just lost another job at some startup he worked in, brand design, whatever that means, and the shop was running at a loss. I caved, sent over $1,000 without blinking, told myself it was temporary, but it wasn't. That payment turned into a routine. I paid monthly like clockwork. Some months I chipped in extra because the heater broke or business is slow. Not once did they say thank you. It was just expected. And Mason, my guy, was living like it was summer break all year round, streaming all day, sleeping till noon, ordering Uber Eats with the money I sent to keep the lights on. And I let it go. For years. Last month, I just wrapped a brutal sprint at work. No weekends off, I was burned out, sleep deprived, and honestly, hanging by a thread. I stopped by the house like I usually did on Sundays, groceries in hand, because God forbid they remember to shop. I walk in and the vibe is off. Mom's sitting with her arms crossed, Dad's pacing the kitchen, and Mason, of course, is on the couch scrolling on his phone like nothing's going on. Then comes the bomb. We need to talk, Mom says. Oh no. Dad jumps in, voice already defensive. We've been talking and we think it's time you step up a little more. WTF? I blink. I already send you money every month. Mom scoffs. Yeah, like a few bills here and there, but it's not enough anymore. I drop the bags on the counter, hands clenched. I've been paying your mortgage for 2 years. What more do you want? Mason chimes in finally. This dude opens his mouth. Bro, relax. You know they've done a lot for us. Us. I could have punched a hole in the wall. No, I don't see you paying for anything, I snapped. And that was it. Mom jumped up like I just insulted Jesus. Don't you dare talk to your brother that way. He's trying his best. Nope, I was done. Let me get this straight, I said, calm but loud. You want me to take over the entire mortgage, keep paying for everything while Mason continues to sit here on his ass, and you think I'm the problem? Dad looked me dead in the eye and said, if you were a good son, you'd help your family without being told. That line broke something in me. I reached for my bag. Cool. You want me gone, I'm gone. Tracy yelled, If you walk out that door, don't come back. I turned to her and smiled, not a fake one. A real, relieved one. Okay. And I left. Present day. I haven't heard a damn word from them for a whole month. Nothing. Then today, I get a text. From Ted, "Hey, why didn't the mortgage get paid this month?" I stared at the message like it was some kind of prank. Are you kidding me? I texted back, thought I wasn't welcome anymore. Then all hell broke loose. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. Mom, Dad, Mason. All of a sudden, I'm important again. It was like watching rats realize the ship was actually sinking. And you know what? I didn't answer any of them. Not yet, because this time, I wanted them to sit in the silence. It took them 3 days to stop pretending I didn't exist. First came the polite texts, then came the guilt, then came Mason. This dude sent me a 2-minute voice message on WhatsApp like he was delivering a TED Talk on brotherhood. Yo, man, listen, I know things got heated, but I think we all said stuff we didn't mean. You're still family. All right, let's not blow this out of proportion. The mortgage is late, that's all. They're stressed. You know how mom gets. Yeah, I know exactly how she gets. Passive-aggressive tears, the martyr act, dramatic sighs like she's in a Hallmark movie no one asked for. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my bank app and looked at the transaction history. All those transfers labeled family support, mortgage, utilities, it added up easily over $22K in the last 18 months. And you know what stung the most? Not the money. It was the fact that I let it become normal. Like I was just the walking wallet, the reliable one, the disposable one. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind was spinning. I kept thinking, where the hell did all that money actually go? So I called the bank. Told them I used to assist with my parents' mortgage but hadn't seen any statements. Asked if they could verify the status. The woman on the phone paused. Then said, "Sir, this account has been behind for several months. Actually, payments were irregular since last year. We've attempted contact regarding delinquency notices." I swear, I sat there blinking at the ceiling like I was trying to decode the damn matrix. They were behind for months while I was still sending them money. Oh! That's when it hit me. They weren't just struggling, they'd been lying. So where the hell did all that cash go? The next day, I started connecting dots. Instagram, Facebook, Mason's old TikTok that hadn't been updated in months. And then I found it, a YouTube channel, under a different name, M4 Sun Live, like some edgy gamer tag from 2008. He had a dozen videos up, podcast episodes, vlogs, crypto for creatives. One had a thumbnail of him at a freaking convention with a banner behind him. Founder of FYN Capital Next Gen Creator Funding. Excuse me, what? So I dug deeper. Turns out Mason had used the money I was sending to bankroll some half-baked creator crypto startup. Paid for the website, the camera gear, even ran ads. The website was slick, too slick. There were investor opportunities, early bird packages, testimonials from beta users, one of those fake-it-till-you-make-it setups. It clicked. I'd been funding his fake business, and worse, my parents were in on it. They had to be. There's no way Mason, who once couldn't figure out how to restart a router, built all this without help. So now I wasn't just the family ATM, I was an unwitting investor in a damn pyramid scheme. I didn't go nuclear, not right away. I wanted them to sweat. So I sent Mason a message, just 2 words, "Nice project." He replied instantly, "Shit." Yeah, bro, shit indeed. Then I sent another. "Let's talk. Tomorrow. My place, just you." He showed up 10 minutes early, hoodie on, eyes shifting like he was about to confess to murder. I didn't offer him coffee. I didn't ask how he'd been. I just opened my laptop, pulled up the website, and turned the screen toward him. So, Finn Capital, catchy name? He stammered, It's just an idea. It hasn't even launched. Not really. I was going to pay you back once it got off the ground. I stared at him, deadpan. You used mortgage money to build a fake tech company. He shook his head. No, not all of it. Some went to the house. The rest was, investments. Mason, this isn't just dumb. It's illegal. You used my money under false pretenses. That's fraud. His face went pale. Come on, man, it's not like that. I stood up, let him stew in it. Then I said, You have 48 hours to pay me back, or I go to a lawyer, and I will take this to court. He started panicking. I don't have that kind of money. Not my problem. Figure it out. Sell your equipment. Ask your investor friends. Beg mom and dad. I don't care. Just know if I don't see something in writing by Friday, I go public. He left. Didn't even close the door properly. An hour later, I got a call. It was Mom. Noah, honey, Mason just left here crying. What did you say to him? I didn't even flinch. He stole from me. You helped him. You want to talk about that? She gasped, genuinely gasped, like I'd accused her of murder. We didn't steal. We needed help. Mason had a vision. You lied. You said the money was for the house. The house. Mom, silence. Then she pulled out the guilt script. You've always had more than him. It's easy for you. You don't understand what it's like to feel lost. Oh, for fuck's sake. What I understand is you used my trust like a credit card, and now you're mad it's maxed out. She tried to keep up the pity act, but I wasn't biting anymore. You told me not to come back. You made that choice. Now you live with it. And I hung up. That night I typed up everything. Dates, transfers, screenshots, links to Mason's business, and the bank call summary, saved it to a folder labeled Family Theft Evidence. Not for revenge, for protection. Because at this point, I knew they'd try to flip the story, make it about me abandoning them, try to make me the villain. Not this time. The next morning, Mason texted me a PayPal receipt, $1,200. Subject line first installment. Please don't sue me. I didn't reply. Because now I had leverage. And for the first time in years, I felt like I had control. The PayPal receipt sat in my inbox like some kind of joke. $1,200 out of over 20 grand. I didn't even open the message. I just stared at the subject line like it was taunting me. First installment, please don't sue me. Seriously? That's like burning down someone's house and mailing them a pack of matches as an apology. I wanted to delete it, wanted to scream, but mostly I just felt hollow, tired, like years of exhaustion had finally collected interest. So I did what I always do when I can't think straight. I made a list. Not a revenge list, not yet. Just a list of what I knew and what I didn't. What I knew, I'd been sending money monthly for nearly 2 years, sometimes more than $2K/month. They claimed it was for mortgage plus groceries. The mortgage hadn't been paid in months. Mason used the money to build FYN Capital, some bogus crypto startup. The website was full of buzzwords, barely legal, and clearly a front. My parents knew. They had to. What I didn't know. Exactly how long they'd been lying. Whether the house was in foreclosure already. If they'd ever intended to tell me. If there were other things they were hiding. So I did what any responsible software engineer with unresolved rage issues would do. I filed a fraud alert on my accounts and started pulling my credit report, just in case. Then, just out of curiosity and maybe a little fear, I logged into an old joint account I'd opened years ago for family emergencies. Guess what I found? Gone. All of it. Not a dime left. And not just gone transferred, multiple times, Small amounts at first, then larger ones. Steadily. Quietly. For months. Each withdrawal had a note like, "For Mason's meds, grocery shortfall, Dad's truck repair," except none of those things ever came up. Not once did anyone mention a truck repair, or prescriptions, or even a F asterisk seeking thank you. I sat there in my kitchen, staring at my laptop, hands shaking. They didn't just take what I offered. They reached in and took more. That night, I called my friend Jordan, my ex, actually, but still one of the only people I trust. She works in legal ops for a fintech company, knows money, contracts, risk. When I told her what happened, she was dead quiet for a second, then said, "Noah, that's theft. And if they accessed a joint account you never authorized them to use, that's grounds for civil action." I exhaled. I don't want to sue my parents. "Yeah, you think they hesitated when they emptied your account? Point taken." She offered to help me file a financial audit report, even pointed me to a family fraud attorney. I didn't commit to anything yet, but the weight of what she said stuck with me. They didn't hesitate. So why the hell was I? The next morning, I got a voicemail from Dad. "Noah, we need to talk. Please don't make this worse than it already is. Whatever you're planning, just stop. We're family, and family sticks together." Funny how family only pops up when I stop playing the ATM, but what caught me off guard was his tone. It wasn't angry, it was nervous. Later that day, I got a call from a blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. It was Mason again. "Hey, so, I talked to Mom. She's freaking out. Look, I know we screwed up. All right, but can you not go legal? I'll get the money. I just need time." I didn't respond, but I did save the voicemail, because at this point, I was done hoping they'd do the right thing. I was collecting receipts. 2 days later, I get an email from a stranger. Subject line: Mason Carter, Fwin Capital Inquiry. Inside, a woman claiming to be an early investor in FYN Capital said she'd put in $5,000 after watching one of Mason's live streams where he pitched the company as family-backed and future-proof. She said the payment stopped, the business vanished, Mason ghosted her. She found my email through a buried PayPal invoice listed under financial support N. Carter. Holy asterisk. He wasn't just lying to me, he was lying to other people, and using my name to do it. That was it. I didn't rage post, didn't blow up on Twitter, didn't show up at their house. Instead, I did something better. I printed every bank transfer, every screenshot, the investor email, the voicemail transcriptions. And I mailed it all to them, via certified mail, with a simple sticky note on top, in case you forgot what you took. Hours later, I got a text from Mom. "Why are you doing this? What happened to you?" And it was so on brand I actually laughed. What happened to me? "Mom, I gave you thousands. Trusted you blindly. You stole from me, lied to me, gaslit me into thinking I was selfish for setting boundaries, and now you're shocked. What happened is I woke up." Jordan came over that night with Thai food and cheap wine. We sat on my balcony while I read her some of the texts. She didn't say much, just shook her head. "You want my legal opinion?" I nodded. "Screw 'em, hit back, and don't feel bad about it." We toasted to that. A week later, Mason Venmo'd me $2,000, no message, just silence. Then Dad called, left another voicemail. "We're sorry, Mason was just trying to help us get ahead. We didn't mean for it to go this far. Please, let's fix this. Too late." You don't steal the foundation and ask to build a new house on top of it. So I did one last thing. I emailed the woman, the investor, and told her what I'd learned. Attached everything I had. She replied with one line. "Thank you, I'm taking this to the authorities." And suddenly, it wasn't just my fight anymore. You know what the wildest part is? I don't even want revenge anymore. I just want my F***king piece. And finally, I think I've got it. Mason didn't reach out after that. No, sorry. No, I'll fix this. Just radio silence. Which, honestly, was a relief. For once, no pity performance, no performative guilt, just dead air. Dad, on the other hand, wouldn't quit. I got 3 voicemails in 2 days, all the same theme. We didn't mean to hurt you. We're still your parents. Let's talk before this gets uglier. Before it gets uglier. You think I made it ugly? I sat on my couch, phone on silent, rereading that last message from the investor. I filed a report with the Michigan Attorney General. Thank you for being honest. You might be called as a witness. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just some family drama anymore. It was a goddamn fraud case. The next morning, I got an email from someone claiming to be from the AG's office. At first I thought it was spam, but when I Googled the sender, it checked out. They wanted to ask a few questions. I agreed to a call. The agent, Marie, was polite but direct. Mr. Carter, we've received a complaint about a potential financial fraud involving FYN Capital. You're listed on a few early invoices as a sponsor. Can you clarify your involvement? I laughed, out loud. I didn't sponsor *T. Then I told her everything. From the bank payments to the fake startup to the voicemail I got from Mason practically begging me not to sue. She listened carefully, took notes, didn't say much, but I could hear it in her voice she'd seen this before. Families tearing each other apart with money in the middle. At the end of the call, she said, "Thank you for cooperating. We may follow up." I hung up, dropped my phone, and just sat there. I wasn't scared. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was free. Like finally, this whole twisted cycle was out in the open. No more secrets. No more he's just going through something. No more emotional blackmail hiding under we're family. Later that night, I stopped by the old diner I used to go to with my mom when I was a kid. Weird impulse, I know, but I just needed to see a piece of my past that wasn't tainted. It was quiet. Same grumpy waitress, same stale coffee. I sat in the booth near the window where she used to read coupons while I ate pancakes, and for the first time in weeks, I let myself cry. Not out of sadness, out of grief. Grieving the parents I thought I had, the brother I hoped Mason would be, the life I'd tried so hard to keep stitched together. And you know what? I didn't feel weak. I felt strong as hell. When I got back to my place, there was a package on my doorstep. No return address. Inside a stack of cash, no note, just rubber-banded hundreds, at least $3,000. I didn't even have to guess. It was Mason. Guilt money, maybe hush money. I put it on my kitchen table and stared at it like it might explode. 2 days later, Marie from the AG's office called again. This time she sounded sharper. We received documentation suggesting your name was used on FYN Capital's promotional materials. That opens up liability. We'd recommend distancing yourself legally. Already ahead of you, I said. Then I dropped a bomb I'd been saving. I'd filed a notarized statement with a lawyer friend, Jordan's contact, declaring all funds transferred were under false pretenses, included timestamps, receipts, screenshots, and a declaration of no involvement. Marie was impressed. "Smart move," she said. "We've seen a lot of people get dragged into these things because they didn't prepare. You just protected yourself from about 10 kinds of hell. Funny, all I wanted was to protect them. Now I was the one setting up firewalls to keep them out of my life." The next day I got an email from Mason. The subject line just said, "Can we talk?" No, we cannot. I didn't even open it. But I did forward it to Marie. Let them talk to him. That weekend, Dad called again, didn't leave a message. Then he texted, You've made your point. Please let this go. Let this go. Like I just threw a tantrum. I texted back. You lied, you stole, and you let me carry your whole life while you built castles out of sand and told me it was cement? No, I won't let it go. You should be lucky I haven't pressed charges. No reply. 3 days later, I got another package, this time from an actual law firm. Inside, a letter. From Mason's lawyer, apparently, he was being investigated now not just by the AG, but also by a couple other private investors he duped. He was trying to negotiate. He wanted me to sign a document stating I wouldn't testify in any future civil case. In exchange, $10,000. Straight up hush money. I called Jordan. She nearly choked on her drink. Absolutely not. That's a trap. If you sign, and this goes criminal, you could get pulled in as a co-conspirator. Screw that. So yeah, that was a hard pass. But damn if it didn't feel good to know Mason was finally feeling the heat. For years, he floated, coddled, protected, bailed out. Now, he was finally on his own. I didn't respond to the lawyer. Instead, I made a call to my parents. I didn't tell them I was coming, just showed up. The house looked smaller than I remembered. When Mom opened the door, her face dropped, like she saw a ghost. Noah. I'm not here to make peace. I said, I'm here to return this. I pulled the envelope of cash from my coat pocket, the $3,000 Mason left me. This isn't a debt, it's a receipt. I'm done. And I'm not your son when you treat me like a goddamn bank account. She didn't say anything, just stood there, blinking like her brain couldn't load the response. Then I looked past her. Mason was sitting on the couch. Eyes hollow, hair messy, laptop closed. For once, not pretending to hustle. You should have told the truth. I said, one time, that's all it would have taken. He didn't look up. I turned around and walked away. Didn't slam the door. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't need to. It's wild how quiet things got after that. No calls, no texts, no letters shoved under my door or cryptic emails from burner accounts. Just silence. And honestly, it was bliss, sure. I hadn't felt that kind of peace in years. No random payment requests. No, hey, can you float us till next Friday messages. No guilt-drenched voicemails from Mom with shaky sighs and long pauses meant to make me feel like I'd abandoned a puppy on the side of the road. Just me, and silence, and space. I used that space, started running again, not from anything, just for myself. I cleaned out my old files, dumped all the family folders into a hard drive labeled closure, and shoved it in a drawer I never open. I took up cooking, bought plants, dated casually, went to therapy finally. And I got a promotion. Team lead, better pay, more responsibility. But this time, I wasn't afraid to say no when I needed to. I was rebuilding, for me. Then, out of nowhere, 2 weeks after I delivered the cash back to their front door, I got a call from an unknown number. A woman. Hi, is this Noah Carter? My name is Linda. I'm your aunt, Tracy's sister. That name Linda felt like a rock dropped in still water. I hadn't heard from her since I was a kid. I barely remembered her. All I knew was she moved to Oregon after a fight with my mom over something no one would ever talk about. I'm sorry to call out of the blue, she said, but I saw what's happening with Mason online. The lawsuit, the fraud claim. My stomach tensed. She sighed. I've been waiting for something like this. Your parents, they've been lying for a long time. She asterisked it. She told me everything. Years ago, like, before I was even in high school, my dad racked up major gambling debts. Like scary big, lost a bunch of money on poker nights and online sports betting, ended up borrowing cash from a guy Linda called a friend of a friend, aka someone you do not want to owe. He promised he'd pay it back quick. He didn't. So Tracy, my mom, pawned some stuff, took out a second mortgage behind Linda's back. They co-owned a small property at the time, and then forged Linda's signature on one of the documents to push a loan through faster. When Linda found out, she threatened to press charges. Family stepped in, it got resolved. And by resolved, I mean hush-hushed and swept into a corner like it never happened. But the grudge, it never died. I walked away because I couldn't trust them anymore. Linda said, and I'm calling you now because I think you're the only one who gets it. I sat there holding the phone, stunned. They've always leaned on the most responsible person in the family. She said, used guilt like currency. First me, now you. I felt this weird sense of validation, like someone had just confirmed everything I already suspected. No, worse, it was a pattern. I wasn't special. I was just next. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because I was angry, not even because I was sad, but because I finally saw the whole picture. Every tear, every guilt trip, every "but we're family" plea, none of it was about love. It was about survival. I was the backup plan, the safety net, the failsafe when their own *T caught up with them. And I'm not saying they didn't care about me at all. I'm sure, in some twisted way, they did. But it was conditional. I was useful until I set boundaries, valuable until I started asking questions, loved until I said no. The next morning, I pulled out that hard drive, plugged it in. I started sorting everything again, not to organize, to end it. One by one, I emailed each file to Marie at the AG's office. Then I included one final note. Please inform me if I'm ever subpoenaed. Otherwise, I'm done. And I meant that. I wasn't doing this out of vengeance anymore. I wasn't trying to destroy them. I just wanted to be free. A week later, I got a final email from Marie. Thank you, Mr. Carter. Your documents helped us trace the full scope of the fraud. Mason has been formally charged. If anything further is needed, you'll be notified. We appreciate your cooperation. It was done. Not metaphorically, not emotionally. Legally, actually, done. And then, just when I thought the story was over, I got a package, again. This time, it was from a P.O. box in Ohio. No name, inside a letter. Handwritten, shaky ink, a bit of coffee stain on the corner like someone had been up too late, too wired, too tired. It was from my dad. Noah, I don't expect forgiveness. I barely expect you to read this, but I owe you the truth. Your mom and I, we were drowning. Long before Mason's thing. Long before the mortgage mess. I made mistakes. I gambled. I lied. I used people. I justified it as survival. But the truth is, I took the easiest road every time, and I taught your brother to do the same. I failed you both, in different ways. I wish I could undo it. I can't. But I want you to know losing your respect hurt more than losing the house, the money, or even the legal mess. If I could go back, I'd take the hit. I'd sell the house first. I'd tell Mason no. I'd take the damn job at the warehouse instead of waiting for things to turn around. But I didn't. And now I live with that. Whatever happens next, I just hope you live free. Not just from us, but from this whole *King mess we dragged you into. You didn't deserve it, Dad. I sat with that letter in my hand for a long time. Didn't cry, didn't scream. I just breathed, and for the first time, the weight didn't sit on my chest. It drifted, not because he was forgiven, but because I wasn't holding it anymore. A week later, I got lunch with Jordan. We talked about normal things, work, dating, dumb stuff. She asked me what I was going to do with the rest of the Mason money. Some of it had trickled in through Venmo, like little guilt coins. I thought about it, then said, I'm going to donate it, all of it, to a fund for victims of family fraud. She blinked. That's kind of perfect. Yeah, it was because they can keep the past. I'm building something better now. For me, I didn't expect the email from the investor's lawyer. Honestly, I thought that whole thread was closed. Mason was charged, the AG had their case, and as far as I knew, the rest of the investors had moved on or gotten what they could from the ruins of F1 Capital. But there it was, Noah. Thank you again for the files you submitted. We wanted to let you know Mason reached a partial settlement. He's liquidating remaining assets. You're listed in the documentation as an involuntary funder. You may be eligible for recovery. Total estimated $3,842.11. I stared at that number like it might change if I blinked. $3,842. That was like gas money compared to what I lost. But weirdly, I wasn't angry. Because here's the thing. I didn't need the money anymore. I needed the proof. Proof I wasn't crazy. Proof I didn't imagine the manipulation. Proof that Mason actually got held accountable for once in his goddamn life. And now, I had it. Still, I took the money. But not for me. I wrote the check straight to a nonprofit that helped victims of elder and family exploitation. Added a note, in honor of the people who finally walked away. Then I called the lawyer and told her to strike my name from any further settlements. I didn't want a dime more. She sounded surprised. Are you sure there may be more distributed? I'm sure. Let someone else have it. I'm done. And I was the weirdest part of healing. You expect it to feel like a movie scene. Some huge moment. Fireworks, closure, dramatic music. But mine? It happened at a grocery store. Yep, Trader Joe's, 3 p.m. on a Thursday. I was standing in the cereal aisle debating between granola or boring-ass fiber flakes. And this kid walked past, holding his mom's hand, and I heard him say, "Mom, I like when you smile." And she laughed. Like, really laughed. No exhaustion, no fake joy, just this warm, tired but real chuckle that felt like everything was okay, even if only for a second. And I don't know why, but it hit me so hard I had to lean on the cart. Because that's all I ever wanted. Not the money, not the praise, not even the thank yous. I just wanted to be part of something that felt like that. Something light, kind, safe. And now I was finally building that for myself. Later that week, I met with Jordan again. We grabbed ramen at this place downtown that has the good kind of spicy like your nose runs, but you keep eating anyway. I told her everything. The lawyer, the donation, the kid in the cereal aisle. She smiled. You ever think about writing it all down? What, like a blog? Or a post? People need to hear this stuff. Noah, there are so many folks out there trapped in that same guilt loop, thinking they're the problem. You got out. That's worth sharing. At first, I shrugged it off, but later that night, I sat down at my laptop and opened Reddit. I didn't name names, didn't drop exact numbers or go full rage mode. I just told the truth, how I was the responsible one, how I got drained, how I finally said no, how my family weaponized guilt, how it hurt like hell to walk away, and how I did it anyway. And then I logged off, didn't check for likes, didn't refresh the comments. I didn't need validation. I already had peace. A few days later, I did get a response, not from Reddit, from Mason. One last message, a voice note. I played it while brushing my teeth because I wasn't about to give him the dignity of full attention. His voice was tired, small. Hey, Noah, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I get that. I just wanted to say I read your post. Yeah, I saw it. Someone sent it to me. I deserved all of it. Worse, probably, I lost everything. Man, like everything. And the truth is, I thought you'd always bail us out. I didn't think you'd actually walk away. But you did, and Good for you. I don't expect forgiveness. Just wanted to say, I see it now. I see what I did. What we did. And I'm sorry. I didn't save it. Didn't reply. Because that apology wasn't for me. It was for him. 3 months passed. I went on a trip. Portland, then Seattle. Ate too much seafood. Read 2 books. Got sunburned even though it rained. No calls from mom. No texts from dad. No new emails. Just life. Clean, quiet, mine. Then, last week, I got one final package. A small one. Padded envelope. No return address. Again. But the handwriting on the label. I recognized it. Hi, Mom. Inside a necklace, my grandmother's. Simple. Worn. A tiny pendant shaped like a seashell. I used to hold it when I was scared. She gave it to Mom before she passed. Underneath it, a note. I'm not asking for anything. Just returning what was never mine to keep. T. That was it. No apology, no plea. Just letting go, and somehow. That was enough, so here's where I leave it. Sometimes, revenge isn't loud. It's not courtrooms or screaming matches or frozen bank accounts. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is leave, walk away, close the door, choose peace over being right. Let them drown in the silence they built. You don't owe anyone your healing if they gave you the wounds in the first place. I still have the necklace. I keep it in a small wooden box on my dresser. Not because I miss her, because I survived them. And now I smile for real. Now I laugh with my whole chest. Now I don't second-guess my worth. Because I'm not their backup plan anymore. I'm my own damn future. Story 2. My name is Lucas, and I was the guy everyone called when life got hard. You know that one person in every family who handles the bills, fixes the messes, bails everyone out. Yeah, that was me. I'm 35, a finance director at a major tech firm. I work 60-70-hour weeks, make more than enough to live comfortably. But guess what? I've never really lived comfortably, because my family made sure I was always just short of peace. It started off small. My mom, Gloria, needed help with her medical bills. Understandable. Then my younger brother, Kyle, missed a rent payment. Then my dad temporarily needed help with his truck loan. Before I knew it, I was paying for everything. Their house, their cars, groceries, subscriptions, even my dad's satellite sports package, because apparently a man's gotta have his games. At first, I didn't mind. I love my family. Or at least, I used to think I did. But the thing is, love without respect, that's just exploitation dressed up in nostalgia. I didn't notice how far it had gone until my sister Zoe started calling me for emergencies like a new phone or a replacement handbag. I swear, I'll pay you back, she'd say, every single time. She never did. But hey, family sticks together, right? So I kept saying yes. Yes to the bills, yes to their guilt, yes to being the guy they could always count on, but never actually cared about. Until one night, everything snapped. It was Mom's 60th birthday, and I had planned the whole thing, rented out a lakefront restaurant, booked a jazz trio, paid for catering, drinks, everything. It cost me over $12,000. No one offered to chip in. Not that I expected them to anymore. The night went smoothly. Laughter, clinking glasses, a slideshow I'd spent hours putting together. At one point, I stepped outside to take a call from work. When I came back in, I heard voices echoing from the hallway near the kitchen. It was my mother's. I mean, let's be honest, she said, laughing. Lucas only does all this stuff because he thinks it makes him valuable. Zoe chimed in, he's such a sucker. Like, thanks for the party, bro, but come on, he needs therapy or something. Then Dad added the kicker. Let him play hero. We know what he's really doing trying to buy love. They all laughed. And in that moment, something inside me broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a silent, clean break. They didn't see me. I backed away slowly and walked to the patio, where the lake shimmered in the moonlight. I stood there for 10 minutes. Then I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, canceled every single automatic payment tied to their names. Mortgage gone. Car payments gone. Utilities gone. Health insurance gone. Even Dad's sports package, especially that. Then I slipped my phone back into my pocket and walked back into the dining room like nothing had happened. An hour later, the party was winding down. I was sipping a glass of wine when Zoe approached me. "You okay? You got quiet?" I looked at her and smiled calmly. "Just reflecting," I said. She tilted her head. "On what?" "On how expensive fools can be," I replied. She frowned. "Huh." Before I could answer, Dad joined us. "Hey, champ, you mind covering Mom's prescription next week? She's almost out." I took a long breath. "Actually, no, I canceled that, along with everything else." They both stared at me. "What do you mean canceled?" Zoe asked. "I mean your bills, your insurance, the house, the car, all of it. You're on your own now." Dad looked like I had slapped him. "Lucas," he said slowly, "don't be dramatic. You're just upset." "No," I said, standing straighter than I ever had in front of them. "I'm just done." For the next few days, I didn't answer a single call. Not from Mom, not from Zoe, not from Dad. Texts poured in. "Lucas, power's out. Please help." "Son, we need to talk. This isn't you." "Wow. So you're punishing us because of one comment. Grow up." By the end of the week, I had 50 missed calls. By the end of the month, 120. Then came the social media posts. Zoe posted some passive-aggressive nonsense like, "Some people only give to feel superior. Real family gives without keeping score." That one made me laugh. Because I had never once kept score. They just assumed I'd always be there no matter how they treated me. Until I wasn't. A few weeks later, they showed up at my office. Unannounced. My assistant buzzed me. "Lucas, your family's here. They say it's urgent." I sighed. "Send them to conference room B." When I walked in, Mom looked teary, Zoe looked smug, Dad looked angry. "Lucas," Mom said gently, "we've been trying to reach you." "I noticed," I said flatly. "We're behind on everything," Dad added. "You've made your point. Now let's be reasonable." "Reasonable," I said. "You mean like calling me a fool behind my back while I paid for your life?" Zoe rolled her eyes. "Oh my God. It was a joke. You're seriously throwing away your family over a joke." "No," I said. "I'm cutting off parasites. There's a difference." Mom's tone turned icy. "Lucas, we raised you better than this." "No, you raised me to be useful, but now I'm something better unavailable." Dad stood up, red-faced. "This isn't how family works." "You're right," I said. "Healthy families don't exploit each other." Then I opened my briefcase and laid a contract on the table. "If you want help again, sign this, I'll loan you money. With interest, legally binding." They all gawked at me like I'd grown two heads. Mom stood. "Keep your money, we'll figure it out." "I hope you do," I said. They stormed out. I sat there for a while after, alone. And for the first time in my life, it felt amazing. It's funny how silence can be louder than shouting. After the confrontation at my office, the calls stopped. For 2 weeks, my phone barely buzzed. No texts, no emails, just peace. I'd come home, fix dinner, sit by the window with a glass of bourbon, and breathe. My apartment, once just a place I slept between work trips, started to feel like home, like mine. The first few nights were uneasy. I kept waiting for someone to show up, to guilt-trip me, to beg, but they didn't. Not at first. Then the tide shifted. The silence turned into subtle noise posts on Facebook from Zoe like, "Some people forget where they came from. Just remember who was there when you were nobody." And "True family doesn't keep score." She didn't tag me. She didn't have to. The comments flooded in from our extended family and her friends. "Hope you're okay. Girl, some people get money and forget their roots. Your brother's lucky to have a sister like you." I didn't reply. I didn't even care. Because by now, I was starting to see clearly. They never loved me for me. They loved me for what I could provide. I wasn't a son or a brother. I was a safety net with a pulse. A week later, I got a voicemail from my father. "Lucas, we tried to do this your way, but now we need you to understand this isn't just about money. Your mom isn't well. She's not eating. She barely leaves bed. Is that what you wanted?" I listened to it once, then again, then I deleted it. Because here's the thing, my mother wasn't sick when I paid her medical bills. She wasn't fragile when she laughed at me at her party. She wasn't weak when she took and took and took. She was fine until the gravy train ended. Funny how that works. Then one night, around 9 p.m., there was a knock at my apartment door. I looked through the peephole. "Zoe." I almost didn't open it, but I was tired of the games. So I unlocked it and let her in. She didn't look like her Instagram photos. No makeup, messy bun, hoodie that clearly wasn't hers. "Nice place," she said, walking in like she owned it. "Cut to the point," I said, arms folded. She sat on the armrest of my couch. "Mom's in bad shape. You really want her to go through this without your support?" I stared at her. She stared back. Then I said, "You mean the same mom who called me pathetic behind my back?" Zoe waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, come on. People say dumb things." She didn't mean it. She said it more than once. Silence. Then she said, "Okay, maybe we were wrong, but you're not blameless. Lucas." My eyes narrowed. "Explain." "You held everything over our heads. Every gift, every favor, you always made it feel like we owed you." I blinked. "You did owe me. You never gave without strings." She said, "That's not love, that's control." I stepped back, stunned. Not because she was right, but because she actually believed what she was saying. "You're unbelievable." I said, "I bailed you out of credit card debt 3 times. I paid for your tuition. You said you'd pay me back." "I needed help," she snapped, "but you only ever helped to feel powerful." I almost laughed. "No, Zoe, I helped because I thought you were family." Her expression softened just a bit. Then I said something I hadn't planned to say. "I don't hate you." She blinked. "I just don't trust you." That landed. She stood slowly, brushing invisible lint from her hoodie. "So what now?" she asked quietly. "Now you go home." And Mom, she has a choice. She can figure things out like the rest of us, or she can keep waiting for a miracle. Zoe opened the door, then hesitated. "If she dies, you'll regret this." "No," I said. "If she lives and keeps treating people the same way, I'll regret helping." She left without another word. The next month was quiet again until I got a call from an unfamiliar number. It was my Uncle Tom. Hadn't heard from him in years. "Lucas," he said, "your mom and dad are losing the house. I know you've had your issues, but it's not too late to help them." I sighed. "Why do you care now?" "Because they're family." "No, Uncle Tom," I said, "they're your family. Start acting like it." He tried to argue, but I ended the call. That same week, Zoe started a GoFundMe. Helping our parents through a rough patch. She didn't name me, but the bio made it clear. They've been abandoned by someone they trusted. They need our help now more than ever. I reported it for fraud. It was removed 2 days later. A month later, I got a letter. Real paper, No return address, just a short note in shaky handwriting. You were right. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Mom. No ask. No manipulation. Just those words. I stared at it for a long time, and I didn't know how to feel. Because for the first time in my life, my mother had said something to me without expecting anything in return. I didn't respond. But I didn't throw it away either. By now, I had started to change. I spent more time with people who genuinely cared about me, colleagues, neighbors, a few close friends I'd neglected while carrying my family's burdens. I even went on a date. For once, I wasn't the guy glued to his phone, stressed about someone else's mess. I was just present. It felt strange. Good. Quiet. Still, some nights I thought about them. I wondered if Dad found a job, if Mom ever got better, if Zoe ever looked in the mirror and saw herself clearly, but I never reached out. Because love without boundaries isn't love, it's a prison, and I had finally broken out. 3 months. That's how long it had been since I walked away from my family and stopped funding their lives. In that time, I learned something important. When people depend on you for survival, not because they can't manage, but because they won't, you become both their lifeline and their scapegoat. The second you cut the rope, you're not missed, you're hated. And hate, it's easier than accountability. That realization hit me the day I ran into my old neighbor, Mrs. Halprin, sweet, retired teacher, lived 2 doors down from my parents for years. I bumped into her at the grocery store. "Oh, Lucas," she said, lowering her glasses. "I've been meaning to ask what's going on with your folks." I shrugged. "What do you mean?" "Well," she whispered, glancing around, "I saw a for sale sign go up. Then 2 days later, it was gone. And your dad was out front yelling at the mailman. I was worried someone was sick. I almost said nope, just entitled and broke. But I smiled politely and said, I'm not really in the loop." Her eyes softened. "That's a shame. You were always the responsible one." That comment stayed with me. Not because it was true, but because it reminded me of how long I had carried their chaos without anyone realizing it. I had been their backup generator, their storm shelter, their invisible bank account. Now they were exposed to the world, and they were spiraling. 2 weeks later, I got an unexpected email from a name I hadn't heard in years. Claire. Claire was my ex. We dated for almost 4 years in my late 20s. She left, kindly but clearly, when she realized I was married to my family first. "There's no room for me in your life." "Lucas," she had said, "it's like I'm dating a man with 3 kids and 2 aging parents, and I'm not even on the list." She was right, but this email wasn't about us. Subject line: "You need to know this." The message: "Hey, this isn't my place, but I saw something today that I thought you should know. A mutual friend of ours, remember Derek from your old job, sent me a clip from a podcast. Your sister was on it, talking about toxic siblings. She didn't name you, but it was obvious." I clicked the link. Zoe was sitting in a recording studio, all dolled up, speaking into a mic like she was a victim of some epic betrayal. "Sometimes," she said dramatically, "your own brother will leave you in the dirt when you need him the most. He'll use his success to make you feel small, and when you finally stand up to him, he'll punish you." The host nodded solemnly, clearly loving the drama. "And how did you respond?" he asked. "I chose peace," she said, smiling. "I stopped relying on him. I built my own support system. It's hard, but I'd rather struggle with dignity than thrive under manipulation." I closed the tab. Dignity, please. She had tried to scam me with a fake loan shark story. She begged outside my apartment. She posted GoFundMe campaigns to weaponize public sympathy. And now she was rebranding as a self-made survivor. It would have been laughable if it hadn't made me furious. Not because she lied, because she believed it. The next day, I finally got the message I'd been expecting for months. From my father, not a voicemail. A handwritten letter, sloppy, rushed, but real. Lucas, we've lost the house. Your mother's been staying with Zoe. I'm couch surfing with a friend. I won't ask for money. I know that door's closed, but I'm writing to tell you something. You were right. We used you, not maliciously, just blindly. We didn't see what we were doing until everything fell apart. That's on us. I don't expect forgiveness. But I needed to say this. Your mother doesn't talk much anymore. Zoe, but I remember how you used to take care of us. You didn't have to. You just did. That wasn't weakness. That was love. Take care. Dad. I read it 3 times. Then I set it on the counter and poured myself a drink. It didn't feel like victory. It felt quiet. Not peace. AmITheA. Just space. Later that week, my boss called me into his office. Said I had been nominated for a regional leadership award. Big deal, prestigious, recognition I had earned for years. And yet, on the drive home, I felt hollow, not because I missed them, but because for the first time in my life, I had no one waiting to take credit for my success. It was all mine. That night, I opened my laptop, pulled up my blocked contacts, and hovered over Zoe's number. Then I blocked it again. Some bridges don't need rebuilding. They need to stay burned. That weekend, I went to the park, needed air, light, life. As I sat on a bench sipping coffee, I saw a father playing catch with his son. The kid missed the ball and burst into tears. The dad didn't scold him. He just walked over, knelt down, and said, "You're doing great. Let's try again." And something in me cracked, because my own father never did that. Not for baseball, not for anything. He taught me that love was transactional, that my worth was tied to what I gave, not who I was, and now I had unlearned that. By walking away, that night, I found an old photo album. One I hadn't opened in years. Inside were pictures of me and Zoe as kids, summer vacations, birthdays, school events, back before money complicated everything, back before love turned into leverage. And I felt something strange, not guilt, not grief, just nostalgia. Then my phone buzzed, an unknown number. I let it ring. It rang again. And again, then a text came through. "Lucas, it's Aunt Janine. Your mom collapsed. Zoe's at the hospital. I don't know how bad it is. Just thought you should know." I stared at the message. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I just sat there, very still. Then I typed back, "Thank you for telling me, but I'm not coming." She didn't reply. And I didn't wait, because I had already said goodbye. Not to my mother. To who I used to be, the hospital room was quiet. Too quiet, considering the noise that had always followed my mother. The lectures, the layered guilt, the sighs laced with disappointment. Now it was just her and a beeping monitor. I didn't come to see her out of obligation or pity. I came because I wanted to understand how this chapter ends. Zoe sat slumped in a chair near the window. She didn't say a word when I walked in, just blinked, like seeing me in this setting didn't compute. I stood by the bed. My mother looked smaller than I remembered, frail, older, as if the weight of 1,000 unpaid debts and unspoken apologies had crushed something inside her. She opened her eyes briefly. They landed on me. For once, no fury, no sadness, just acceptance. "Lucas," she whispered, "you came." I nodded. No lecture, no dramatic monologue. I had outgrown all that. "You're sick," I said. "You need rest." "I was sicker long before this," she mumbled, eyes fluttering closed again. She didn't mean physically. And for once, I didn't have to fix it. That realization was strange and quiet and freeing. I turned to leave. Zoe stood. "You're just going?" she asked, incredulous. "I came, I saw, I'm done." Zoe's voice cracked. "She's dying, Lucas." "No," I said. "She's finally facing the life she built. That's different." She opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. "I'm not here to be the villain in your redemption arc. Zoe, I'm not here to bail anyone out. I just wanted to know if she was still the same. And she's not. She's tired. And for what it's worth, I hope she finds peace." Zoe sat back down, stunned. Maybe for the first time in her life, she had no weapon left. I walked out. It's been a year since that visit. My mother passed away quietly 6 weeks later. No dramatic last words, no emotional deathbed forgiveness, just silence. Zoe handled the funeral. I didn't attend. Instead, I took a solo trip to the mountains, hiked for days with no signal, no pressure, no noise. I scattered the idea of her, the version of her I used to chase somewhere among the trees. My father called once after she died, left a voicemail. "Your mom kept your baby photos in her bedside drawer. I thought you should know that." I didn't call back. But I appreciated it. Sometimes, healing doesn't require reunions, just recognition. A few months later, I bumped into Claire again, at a bookstore of all places. She smiled. I smiled. We grabbed coffee. We didn't talk about the past, just books, careers, music. Eventually, she asked, "Are you okay now?" I thought for a moment. "I'm not angry anymore," I said, "and I think that's better than okay." She nodded. "That's rare. Most people just carry their anger forever." I shrugged. I carried them long enough. I figured I could finally put something down. Zoe reached out again recently. A short, surprising email. "Lucas, I started therapy. Real therapy, not podcasts, not pity parties. I'm trying to understand what made me, me. I won't ask you for anything. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Not because I want something, because I finally believe it. Whatever comes next for us, or doesn't. I hope you're well. Zoe." I didn't reply, but I didn't block her. Progress. My life now. It's mine. I still work hard, but I take breaks. I travel. I cook. I sleep in on Saturdays and eat pancakes on the balcony. I even adopted a dog. His name's Milo. He's a bit of a menace, but he doesn't ask for rent money, and that's refreshing. Sometimes I sit on the couch with him curled at my feet and think about how different things feel now. Not just lighter, clearer. I don't measure love in what I give away anymore. I don't chase approval from people who only see me as useful. I don't explain my choices to those who already decided I'm wrong. Boundaries are not walls. They're doors with locks, and now I hold the key. The last thing I'll say is this. Cutting people off doesn't always look like slamming a door. Sometimes it's just no longer making excuses, no longer reaching out, no longer waiting to be seen. It's walking forward without turning around every 5 minutes to check if they're following. I still believe in family, but only the kind that loves you without a receipt attached. So if you're like me, if you've given too much, carried too long, waited too patiently, here's your sign. You're not a bad person for protecting your peace. You're not cold for choosing boundaries over burnout. You're not cruel for stopping the cycle. You're free, finally. And that's not just okay. That's everything. Story 3. My name is Noah James, and if there's one thing I wish someone had told me before I got married, it's this. Sometimes love means stepping back even when you know the fall is coming. When I married Leah, I thought I understood partnership. We'd been together for 3 years before tying the knot. She was bright, driven, emotionally fiery. I was steady, patient, maybe too patient. From the outside, we looked balanced. She made spontaneous decisions. I kept us grounded. I tracked the boring stuff bills, repairs, errands. She made the weekends exciting. That was our rhythm. But somewhere along the way, she stopped seeing what I did as help and started seeing it as interference. It started subtle. The way she rolled her eyes when I reminded her to call her mom for her birthday, or how she'd take a deep breath before answering when I'd ask if the water bill got paid. At first, I brushed it off. Everyone gets irritated sometimes, right? But then came the evening that rewired our whole dynamic. It was a Wednesday. I remember because it was trash night, and Leah had forgotten, again. She walked into the kitchen, barefoot, scrolling through her phone. I was cleaning up dinner, and casually said, "Hey, did you take the bins out?" They didn't pick up last week because they weren't out in time. She didn't look up. "I've got it," she said. 10 minutes later, still no bins on the curb. I tried again. "Leah, seriously, it's almost 10. They come early." She froze, turned slowly, and looked at me with this expression I couldn't quite place. It wasn't anger. It was worse, contempt. "You know what? Noah, you don't have to manage me. I'm not your assistant." I blinked. "What?" "You keep acting like I can't handle life without you hovering. I'm tired of it. I'm not broken. I don't need saving. I need space." And just like that, she was gone into the bedroom. Door shut. I stood there for a while, trash bag still in hand, confused, hurt, angry. I didn't think I was controlling. I didn't yell. I didn't micromanage. I was just trying to help. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe I had helped too much, for too long. So that night, I made a decision. If Leah wanted to manage her own life, she could. I'd stop reminding her, stop fixing things, stop covering for her missteps. Not to punish her, but because maybe she needed to fall to understand why I was always standing underneath. The first few days were easy. She walked around like a queen finally unchained, smiling, whistling, even started planning meals, which she hadn't done in months. I'll admit I was impressed. Maybe she really did just need some room. But that glow didn't last long. The first crack came 2 weeks in. She forgot to renew her car registration, got pulled over on her way to work. She came home fuming, slamming doors, muttering about stupid rules. I didn't say a word. Not my circus. The next crack was financial. Her credit card got declined at the grocery store. I knew she had moved some auto payments to her account for independence. Guess she forgot about them. Again, I said nothing. She didn't mention it either. But the late-night pacing started after that. Then the stress migraines. A month later, the electric bill wasn't paid. I knew because the power went out right in the middle of her favorite cooking show. She stormed into the living room, blanket over her shoulders like some disappointed queen. "Noah," she said flatly, "why didn't you remind me to pay the bill?" I looked up from my book. "I thought you didn't need me managing you anymore." Silence. Her face turned red, but not from anger, from shame. She said nothing else, just went to the bedroom and shut the door. And you know what? It hurt more than I expected, not because I wanted to be right, but because it wasn't supposed to be her versus me. It was supposed to be us together. Then came the turning point. She missed a job interview. Big one. A position she'd been talking about for weeks, but she had written the wrong date in her planner, skipped it entirely. I walked into the kitchen that night to find her sitting in the dark, not crying, just staring. "I messed up," she whispered. I didn't gloat. I didn't say I told you so. I just sat beside her and said, "What now?" She leaned into me. "I don't know," she said. "I thought I could handle everything, but I'm so tired." I looked at her not as the stubborn woman who pushed me away, but as the girl I'd fallen in love with, the one who used to call me her anchor. "Then let me be your teammate again," I said. She nodded. quietly, tearfully, and in that moment, the wall between us cracked. We didn't magically fix everything that night, but the silence became conversation. The resentment became reflection, and I realized something that changed everything. Helping is not the problem. Assuming someone wants your help, that's the issue. I had stepped in too much, too often, without asking if she wanted it. She had shut me out to prove a point, but at what cost? The next part of our story was going to be different, because this time, we'd write it together. Leah was quieter after that night. Not sad, not angry, just reflective. I could see her mind racing behind her eyes. The way she stared out the window a little longer each morning. The way she checked her calendar 3 times before leaving for work. Something had shifted in her. And in me, too. We weren't exactly healed, but the ice was thawing. Slowly. We began speaking again not just about logistics or chores, but real things. Honest things. Scary things. I think I was trying to prove something, she said one evening, sipping tea, curled up in the corner of the couch. Prove what I asked. She looked down. That I wasn't a burden? That I wasn't failing at being an adult if I didn't need help? I was silent for a moment, then I leaned forward. Needing help doesn't mean you're a failure. Leah, it means you're human. She let out a shaky laugh. Try telling that to the voice in my head. We didn't fix everything that night, but we began building a language, a mutual understanding, a new foundation, one where help wasn't something to be ashamed of, but something to invite. And for a while, things really did start to feel different, until the storm came. It started with Leah's dad. A sudden heart attack, no warning, 1 second. He was mowing the lawn. The next, he was in a coma. Leah had always been close to him, closer than she was to her mom. Even losing him, or even the threat of it, cracked her wide open. We rushed to the hospital, spent days in and out of ICU waiting rooms, drinking cheap coffee and praying to gods we didn't believe in. And I saw it again, that wall she built when she felt helpless. But this time, I didn't knock it down. I stood beside it, quiet, steady, until she opened the door. I don't know how to do this, she said one night in the hospital parking lot, eyes red, voice hollow. You don't have to know, I whispered. You just have to let me walk it with you. She didn't say anything, just wrapped her arms around me. Tight. For the first time in a long time, I felt her really lean into me. A week later, her dad passed. Leah unraveled, angry. I've seen her cry before, but this was different. This wasn't sadness. This was grief with no shape, like she was drowning and didn't know which way was up. I handled everything: arrangements, her mother's logistics, the guests, the food, the calls. I never once asked, should I step in? Because I knew this was the kind of pain you don't handle alone. At the funeral, Leah didn't speak. But when I tucked her into bed that night, she whispered, "Thank you for being strong when I couldn't." I kissed her forehead. Next time, you'll do the same for me. 2 months passed. Life didn't get easier, it just got louder. Leah's mother moved in temporarily. That was chaos in itself. She was grieving, too, but in a way that clashed with Leah's. Her coping method was control. Constant noise, rearranging our kitchen, critiquing Leah's clothes, questioning everything. "You're letting him do all the bills again?" her mother asked one morning while Leah was making coffee. "I'm letting us share the load," Leah said calmly. Her mom scoffed. "When I was your age, I took care of everything. Men didn't need to babysit us." Leah turned to her, voice low but firm. "Well, I'm not you." I almost spit out my coffee. It was the first time I'd ever seen her stand up to her mom like that. Later, when we were alone, I told her, that was brave. She rolled her eyes, but I saw the faintest smirk. About time, right. But life wasn't done testing us. 3 weeks after her mom moved out, Leah lost her job. The company downsized. Half her department was gone overnight. She walked into the house that day, shoulders hunched, holding her work laptop like a broken toy. "I'm done," she said softly. "They let me go." I froze. Not because I didn't expect it, corporate layoffs were everywhere, but because I saw that old fear flicker in her again. That whisper, "You're failing." But instead of offering a solution, I asked a question. "What do you need from me right now?" She blinked, surprised, then said, "Just sit with me. Don't try to fix it. Just be here." So I was all night. A week passed. She started applying for jobs again slowly, carefully, with more thought than ever before. "I don't want to just take anything," she told me. "I want something that feels like me, not just survival." We built a budget together, shifted things, put off vacations, found little ways to stretch what we had. But we did it together, and slowly, something began to grow in the cracks. Trust, not just in me, but in herself. One night, we were cooking dinner. Well, she was cooking. I was dramatically failing at chopping onions, and she said something that stopped me cold. "I'm glad everything broke." I raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" She stirred the pasta sauce. "If it hadn't all fallen apart, the job, my dad, us, I wouldn't have learned how to rebuild it right." I walked over, kissed her cheek. "That's the most poetic thing you've ever said while holding a ladle." She laughed. For real this time. And it echoed in the kitchen like music. I used to think love was measured in grand gestures, flowers, gifts, sacrifices. But now I know love shows up in smaller moments, sitting in silence when words won't fix it. Taking out the trash even when it's not your turn, letting someone fail so they can learn to stand, and being there when they do. That's what Leah and I were learning. Not how to be perfect, just how to be partners. 6 months had passed since Leah lost her job. And in that time, our world had quietly shifted. She was still looking carefully, intentionally, but she'd also started freelancing. Small projects at first, editing content, writing for local businesses, even managing social media accounts. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't stable, but it was something she chose for herself. And with each passing day, she seemed to grow into a version of herself that was less afraid to fail and more willing to try. There were no more explosions between us, just pauses, moments where we looked at each other and silently asked, "You good need me?" Sometimes the answer was yes, sometimes no, but now we actually asked. One Tuesday night, around midnight, I walked into the kitchen to find her sitting at the table. Laptop open, coffee half full, her hair a mess. "You working or losing sleep on purpose?" I joked. She glanced up, bleary-eyed but smiling. Bit of both. I poured myself some water and sat across from her. She leaned back in her chair, stretched, and let out a sigh that sounded like the release of 6 years of tension. "I took on more work than I should have this week." I raised an eyebrow. "You okay?" "Not really," she said, "but I'm learning to manage it." I tilted my head. "That a new superpower?" She smirked. "Nah, just a tired woman with Google Calendar and boundaries." It was weird how things felt harder and easier at the same time. We were doing more with less. Less money, less time, less control. But we were also worrying less about keeping score, about who handled what, about whether one of us was slacking or overstepping. Leah started saying thank you more, for things that used to go unnoticed. I did too. A quiet thank you when she remembered to call the plumber. A whispered thanks when I restocked the coffee filters without being asked. Tiny acknowledgments that slowly erased old resentments. One Sunday morning, I was putting together our weekly grocery list when Leah walked up behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist, and said, "I used to think love was always loud. I turned, confused. What do you mean? You know, like shouting from rooftops, dramatic speeches, grand gestures. She looked down, but I think it's this. This. She smiled. This boring, beautiful thing we're doing. But life, being what it is, doesn't let you stay comfortable for long. One rainy Thursday, Leah got a call from her mother. We hadn't seen or heard from her in months. Not since the tension over Leah's job, her grief, our independence. Leah answered on speaker. Mom, I need help. Her voice was small, shaking. What's wrong? I fell. Where are you? At home, my leg's swollen. I can't get up. We were out the door in 5 minutes. When we got there, Leah's mom was on the floor, clutching her side, clearly in pain. I called 911 while Leah knelt beside her, brushing hair from her mother's forehead, whispering calming words. At the hospital, we learned it was a fractured hip. Recovery would take weeks, maybe months, and just like that, the question was in the air. Where would she go? Leah didn't even hesitate. She'll stay with us, she said. It was hard, harder than I expected. We had just started finding our balance, and suddenly we were full-time caregivers again. Leah's mom wasn't cruel, just difficult. She complained about the food, the silence, the neighborhood, and worst of all, she treated Leah like a failure. You're still working from home, she'd ask with a passive-aggressive tone. Freelancing, Leah would correct gently. Not real work, though. I saw Leah's hands clench every time, but she never bit back, not anymore. One afternoon, after her mother made a snide comment about depending on her husband too much, I found Leah sitting alone in the laundry room. She was folding towels aggressively. I leaned against the doorframe. She still doesn't get it, huh? She never will, Leah said, not looking up. Want me to say something? No, she said, not yet. And then, almost to herself, she added, I think I need to say it. The next morning, she did. I don't know what sparked it exactly, maybe the 45-minute debate about which brand of cereal was healthier, or maybe Leah was just done being small. But suddenly, she was standing in front of her mom in the living room, shoulders back, voice calm but steel-lined. You don't get to treat me like I'm failing just because I'm not doing life your way. Her mom blinked. I've made mistakes. Yes, but I've also rebuilt. I've taken care of myself. I've taken care of you, and I'm not going to apologize for not fitting your idea of success. Her mom stared, stunned. And for the first time, didn't respond with sarcasm or criticism, just nodded. Slightly, and changed the subject. But it was enough. Later that night, Leah curled up next to me and whispered, I don't think I'll ever get the apology I want. You might not, she exhaled slowly. But I think I'm done needing it. After 6 weeks, Leah's mom moved into an assisted living facility nearby. Her idea, surprisingly. She said she wants to give us back our space. Leah told me one morning. I kissed her on the cheek. That's the nicest thing she's ever said to me. Leah laughed. That laugh had become my favorite sound again. Things didn't magically become easy after that. Money was still tight. Some clients paid late. Some didn't pay at all. We still had days where I overstepped, where she snapped, where dishes stayed in the sink and tempers simmered too long. But the difference now? We talked about it. We cleaned the sink and the mess in between us. Together, I'll never forget one night, months after everything, when I found Leah staring at the old planner we used to fight about. She ran her fingers along the scribbles and crossed out dates. You know, she said, there were days I resented you for caring so much about this stuff. I looked at her. I know. But now, she smiled, placing the planner back on the shelf. I think I finally get it. It wasn't about control. It was about care. I didn't say anything. I just reached for her hand. And in the silence, everything we couldn't say was understood. Winter came late that year. The cold crept in slowly. Without warning, one morning I woke up, looked outside, and everything was coated in white. Leah stood at the window, cradling a mug of tea, watching the snow fall like it was a private movie just for her. "It's quiet," she said, "too quiet." "No," she smiled, "just peaceful." I walked up behind her, wrapped my arms around her waist, and kissed the back of her head. It wasn't a grand gesture, just a soft, everyday kind of love. This was us now, not perfect, but real. And real felt better than perfect ever did. Leah's freelancing had taken off slowly but steadily. She now had regular clients, even a couple who paid her what she was worth. More importantly, she liked the work. There were days she'd stay up late, not out of desperation, but because she was genuinely invested in what she was building. "I feel like I own something," she told me one night, her eyes bright with a mix of exhaustion and pride. "For the first time in years, I'm doing this for me." That was something no paycheck from a soulless job could buy. We stopped using the word mistake in our house. Everything was a lesson, a pivot, a redirection. We were learning how to live without keeping score. A few weeks before the new year, Leah's dad came into the picture again. They had been distant for most of her adult life. After her parents' divorce, he remarried and moved out of state. She got a message from him one afternoon. "Saw one of your posts online. Sounds like you're doing great. Would love to talk sometime." She showed it to me, lips pressed tight. "I don't know what he wants. You don't have to respond if you're not ready." "I'm not." She deleted the message without replying, and then turned back to her work. Some wounds don't scar. They just stay open in quieter ways. One afternoon, I came home early to find Leah reorganizing the entire living room, not just fluffing pillows like moving furniture. "I think the energy's off," she said, squinting at a shelf. "Did Mercury go into retrograde again?" "No, I just need the couch to not stare directly at the TV." I laughed. "You mean like a living room?" "No," she grinned, "like a healing space. Let me have this." So we spent the afternoon dragging furniture across the floor, cursing at tangled wires, and accidentally smashing a picture frame. By the time we were done, the room felt different, lighter. "Better?" I asked. She nodded. "Much." Then she pulled me onto the couch, threw a blanket over us, and said, "Let's stay here forever." Later that night, she whispered something I'll never forget. "I'm not afraid of failing anymore." I turned to her. "What changed?" She smiled, sleepy-eyed. "I realized failing while trying is better than succeeding at pretending." That line lived in my head for weeks. We never had a sudden, "we made it" moment. No promotion, no lottery win, no viral success story. Just consistent, imperfect progress. That was our miracle. Leah applied for a small business grant, and she got it. Not much, but enough to breathe easier. She started mentoring younger freelancers online, answering questions in forums, building a quiet reputation as someone who helped instead of competed. She was becoming the kind of person she wished she'd had in her lowest moments. And I got promoted at work, nothing dramatic, just a bump in title and pay, but it gave us options. We started dreaming again, nothing big. A weekend cabin trip, a possible dog, maybe someday, even a family. On our anniversary, Leah surprised me with a journal. The leather was worn-looking, like it had already lived 1,000 stories. On the first page, she had written, "To the man who didn't save me, but stood beside me while I saved myself." I blinked hard. "Too cheesy?" she asked. "Perfect," I whispered. We spent that night on the back porch, under fairy lights and stars, drinking cheap wine and telling each other our favorite memories. Most weren't big events. They were small moments, inside jokes, unexpected kindness, a hug when it was needed most. Turns out, love grows in the quiet, and then, like life always does, something unexpected happened. Leah got a job offer, not freelance, not short-term, a full-time remote creative director role for a startup that had seen her work online. It came with benefits, flexibility, and a level of respect she hadn't felt in years. She hesitated. "I'm scared," she told me. "You should be." She looked up, confused. "Because it matters now. Because you care. Because you're not running from something, you're running toward it." Her eyes welled up. "Do I take it?" I smiled. "Only if you're ready to own how far you've come." She took the job, and on her first day, I left a sticky note on her laptop. "You've already proven yourself. Now go have fun." She kept it there for months. We still had bumps. There were days she felt overwhelmed, days I shut down, days where silence felt safer than truth, but we'd learned how to recognize the cracks before they split us. We'd learned that independence doesn't mean isolation, and help doesn't mean weakness. Most of all, we'd learned that partnership means choosing each other every day, not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. One evening, months later, Leah looked at me across the dinner table and asked, "Do you think we'd still be together if none of that happened?" I set down my fork. "I think we'd be together, but not here, not like this." She nodded. "Do you ever wish it had been easier?" I thought for a second. No, easier wouldn't have changed us. She smiled. "Yeah, I think we needed the mess to figure out what mattered." And just like that, we finished our meal, washed our dishes, and curled up on the couch. Outside, it was snowing again. Inside, we were finally home, not just in a house, but in each other, and for the first time in a long, messy, beautiful while, we weren't just surviving, we were living together.